Hi, everyone. My name is Chef Lois Ellen Frank, and I am the chef owner of Red Mesa Cuisine in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And I'm just going to talk to you about the sacredness of some of the foods that we use and how that plays a role as a chef in what I do. I work a lot with corn, beans, and squash. This is called the Three Sisters. And it's called the Three Sisters not only because of the nutrients that they provide, but also how they grow. And what's fascinating about these three is that corn needs nitrogen from the soil and beans give nitrogen. And so together, these two sisters really were sort of a gift to Native people, and many Native communities believe this. And beans need a pole to climb. And so corn is that perfect pole. And squash has big leaves and it shades the ground, keeping moisture in and weeds out. So these plants are like a family. They have a relationship, and the way they grow and the way they want to grow is really important in Native cooking, Native American cuisine, Native ideology. And so I work a lot with the Three Sisters, and you can actually see here that I have some corn. A lot of the corn we use is a corn that's a native corn that grows, and we use the whole kernel, and we grind that into a powder. And we make a lot of dishes like corn mush and corn pudding and atole and breads and dumplings. And when this corn is treated, when we put it into ash, it becomes this corn over here, which is actually a treated corn. Some tribes call it a lye corn. Some tribes know it as a hominy corn. We actually know it here in New Mexico as a pozole, and that's a Spanish word for a treated corn. When you cook that corn, it puffs. And it's really nutritious. It's really delicious. And it's pretty amazing. And then beans, I have lots of beans here. We have some that are drought tolerant. They come in all shapes and sizes and colors. I sort of think as beans like us, they're seeds, and we're all different. My mom always said growing up that corn comes in 4 colors, and those 4 colors are yellow, white, black, and red. Those are the 4 colors on the medicine wheel. Those are the 4 races of man. Those are what makes up this earth. And so we're all earth people. And one of the most fascinating things is the relationship we have. Not only the relationship with the land, but the relationship that we have with the food. And for me personally, as a chef, I know every farmer that supplies food for me. I know how they grow the food, where their farm is, the care that they take. And they're all different. Some of the farmers that I work with supply me with heirloom tomatoes that I can every year. And we're talking about hundreds of pounds. I make jars and jars and jars so that I can use those tomatoes throughout the year. And Timaya is my supplier for the corn that I use. And Ramona Farms supplies some of the beans that I use. And the squash might come from Matt Romero at Romero Farms, or Jose Gonzalez at Gonzalez Farm. And so there's a relationship, not only with the land, but the food. And as a chef, for me, this is really important. I want to know where my food comes from. I want to know how it was grown. I want to know that it was grown without pesticides and without toxins. I want to know that the earth is clean. And I want to know that the farmer cares about the plants as much as I do. And maybe he talks to them, or maybe he sings to them and helps those crops to grow. So I call this a foodscape. And I think it's really important to contextualize, why would someone come to New Mexico when you could get these ingredients, or you could order them online anywhere? Because of that connection that we have to the land and the food and the actual soil, the altitude, the amount of rain, the minerals and the ingredients in the soil influence how the food tastes. So our chilies here have lots of flavor. And I'm probably biased because I've lived in New Mexico since the 80s, but the reason it tastes so good is because of the land. And so this is a foodscape. This is a way that we connect. This is why people come here, to experience the flavors of the land and to experience that connection to place. And that's a really important part of what we do at Red Mesa. I work with Chef Walter Whitewater, and we want to leave all the negative at the door, and we want to focus on the positive, and we want to put love and care and a consciousness into the foods that we serve. And that has to come from the time it's a seed to when it's planted and grown. And then I get it, and then I touch it, and I make it into something, and then I feed it to you. And that, for me, is that cycle, that connection that we all have to the land. And the land is vitally important here. We can't be healthy people without healthy land. It's impossible. And a native way of looking at things is to think about the fact that everything is connected. So if we have this circle and we have these 4 colors of corn, if you do something, it affects everything because it's a circle. You can't do something to one component and not have it affect everything. And that's really, really important when we think about land and we think about food and we think about this need, this important desire to tend to and take care of the land, not only for our own health and wellness, but for the generations that are yet to come. This is a really important way of looking at how we live as Earth people, how we live on the land. I think it's a vital part of who I am as a chef. So one of the things that I've done, and I teach on the college level, and I always tell my students that we need to address a problem, but I'm very solution orientated. How do I make a difference every day? Every day, what can I do? And one of the things that I've done, just on the land where this kitchen is, and where I live, and where I work, and we've planted what's called an edible landscape. And so we took native indigenous plants, one of which is chokecherries, and we planted them, and they've spread. And now, just from the edible landscape in my front yard, which is actually watered from the rain that we get every summer, and chokecherry is very, very important, not only in my native lineage, but to many native tribes. And we harvest anywhere from 20 to 35 pounds of chokecherries. And that includes leaving some for the plant to regenerate itself, but also some for the animals, the birds and the squirrels and the creatures that we share this earth with. And so when you think about what can you do, you can plant an edible landscape. You can take what I call an acceptance garden. What has nature given you? And accept that and help those to grow and help those to propagate on their own, so that we can feed butterflies and bees and birds and bunnies and everyone that we share the earth with, and also take some of that food for ourselves and our families. And so this is also a way of being in the world, a way of being on our own land, in our own landscapes, is to plant foods that, plants that generate food. And this is really important. And a lot of this knowledge, a lot of this information comes from the ancestors. And so in all of our lineages, in all of our indigenousness, we can re-indigenize who we are. Everybody's indigenous, and everybody comes from somewhere. And what did our ancestors do that made the world we live in and the land we live on sustainable? What did they do, and what can we do as individuals? And I think the power of one is so underrated, because we do have a lot of power. And one can turn into 10, which can turn into 100, which can turn into 1,000,000, which can turn into 100 million. And so if we all take responsibility and we all do something to better the land and the food and the plants that we share this land with, I think the world's going to be a better place. And I think that's really important when we look towards the future and making sure that for the next 7 generations, our children and their children and their children have safe, clean, healthy plants to eat and for food. I'm going to introduce Chef Walter Whitewater, and he's the chef I work with at Red Mesa Cuisine. And one of the things that we do together, come on in, Walter, is we bring in the element of song, because songs are prayers, and that element connects us not only to the land, but to the plants and the food that we serve. And so Walter's going to do a little song for us. You want to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Walter Whitewater. I'm originally from a place called Pinon, Arizona. Yate, and it's one of the traditional ways that we use our language and how we connect with the plants. The plant base is that's the most sacred plant that we use to heal people with, and respect the other part. So anyway, I'm going to sing a song here, and end it with the song. There's always a gathering, and so there's always a calling in the grandfather or the spirit, as we say, and then saying thank you at the end with the strum here, and it's the heartbeat, and as they say, one mind, one heart, one beat, as the word goes. So anyway, here it goes. Thank you.
And so the thought of the song, the thought of this goes out, and we all feel it and we live it, and it connects us to the land and to our food and to our sacred plants.
Mm-hmm.